Mike Pachelli here, coming to you from my studio in the south of France, where it's actually raining pretty hard today. It doesn't rain too much in the Var, but it's raining so hard that the palm tree is wanting to take a swim, as you can see. And you know what they say, when the rain comes, they run in. That's another story. For this lesson on the uncommon chords of the Beatles, I'm going to talk about their first Parlophone release, Please Please Me. It was released on March 22nd, 1963. For this lesson, I'll be playing my Gibson L5 West Montgomery flat wound strings. People ask me that stuff. And I've got it plugged into a 1967 Fender Princeton Reverb because this was set up on a session I did last night. So John, Paul, and George have been playing together since 1958 when they went in the studio to do Please Please Me. And they were, pretty tight and well accomplished. And this album is the closest recording we're going to have to the Beatles live, because they did it on a two-track recorder. One track had the instruments and the other track had the vocals, and it was mic'd very, very primitively. Two overheads on the drums, bass drum mic, a mic on each amp, and vocal mics. So it's pretty much how they sounded back then. They recorded the most part of the record on February 11th, 1963, in one 10-hour session, right? And fun facts to know and tell: the Beatles received the equivalent each $200, less than $200 each for their Please Please Me recording session. It had 8 originals and 6 covers. 4 of the songs had already been recorded, and they were released as singles. Please Please Me, Love Me Do, what was it? Ask Me Why, and I think P.S. I Love You. So those were already released, and luckily though they put them on the album, which wasn't necessarily the standard and practice later on, where they had just some singles that never appeared on any albums. But anyhow, we're very fortunate that all these songs are on the Please Please Me album, and we get a chance to enjoy it for forever. There's some uncommon and interesting chords and use of even the way they use some common chords. So that's why we're here, and let's get started. The album kicks off with I Saw Her Standing There, which is such a pot boiler. Got that great McCartney bass line, all throughout. And it's in the key of E, E7. It's basically based on, like 12-bar blues, E7, A7, and B. Lennon makes every chord a 7th chord that he can. Now, first and foremost, if you were playing guitar back in 1963 and you happen to know an E7 chord, which this seems like nothing today, but we're talking about 1963, you probably knew it in first position because you knew your E like this, and you knew to put your pinky down to make E7. That's what most guitar players knew in 1963. You knew how to play a C chord and make it a C7. Well, John Lennon, already onto something different, took that C7 form and moved it up to here, and this is his E7 for most of the song. Right? Now, there's always great interplay between George and John. Again, if you were playing guitar back in 1963 and you knew some chords, you knew a D7 was here. And George is taking that D7 up 2 frets and making his E7 like this. And the song kicks off with George just rocking on that E7, You might not hear the low E note that I'm putting on there. He may have played it just 3 notes, I like to put the 4th note in there. And all the time with John playing his E7 up here. To A7. The combination with that bass line, and is just hellacious. So what a opener. Now the chords go through it's E7, I'll never, and then Paul jumps up to a G sharp, which is the 3rd of an E chord. I'll never dance, right? And John just stays on his regular E7 form. I'll never George also puts the G sharp in his E form. George plays an E down here, and then he plays this chord. 3-note chord with G sharp, B, and E. Right? Just so beautiful while John stays. George plays his A7 here. John's playing his here. And then the next chord, Paul plays a C note, but the chord is an A minor. When you watch videos, you can see that George plays it like this. John's pretty much playing an A7 to the A minor. But it's on top of the C note of Paul's. And if you want to voice it really close, just play like... And when you play your C, play it like almost like C over E. Right? There's a C triad with an E. But if you look at videos, you see that they have their note on the A, finger on the A too. But you can also go... which sounds pretty close too on some of it. And some of the live versions, you see that they're voicing the A minor form, but you can tell they're only playing it from the 5th string to the 2nd string. Just so great. The minor thing is just really so cool. You'll see so many bar bands make that a C chord, you know. But it's not. It's an A minor over C. Okay, what else? Oh, and then the last chord, you know, the E9. It's probably the first time I ever heard an E9. And of course, you know, it was around in blues, you know, Chuck Berry and stuff like that. But, you know, for us kids in middle America, that was the E9 they played at the end. And it was astounding to hear that, you know, when you were a child, because that's just a great chord that's been used, of course, you know, so many times. And there you have it. The next song that has some cool uncommon chord worthiness is Chains, which was written by Carole King and her husband Jerry, is it Goffin or Joffin? I'm sorry, I'm not sure of the pronunciation. But rhythm and blues kind of song. And the first thing you notice in 1963, if you were playing guitar, is what key is that in? Well, it's in B flat. And they're basically using just a basic B flat bar chord. But there's some really cool and ingenious, interesting moves in the song. It's nice how the accent, you know, it's just a... Change, the baby's got and then you get a 9th chord again. They go to E flat 9, to B flat, F9, B flat. What I think is so cool, instead of turning it around on the F9, they go to a regular F. You know? Just, you know, blows my mind. Still does, how cool that is. The really hip moves happen, I think it's in the 2nd verse. It's John Lennon, as you can just hear the twang of his Rickenbacker. He's on the B flat. They're kind of making it, if you want to be, you know, give it a name, an E flat over B flat. And it's just a move like when you go, you know, chains, right? My baby's got me. See that? So, just with your pinky, just lay your pinky down. Got me locked up in chains. But here comes the Lennon brilliance. On the E flat, he continues that move with his pinky. Now that blows my mind still, because it was very uncommon for 1963. You know, this was most guitar players, if they were going to do something like that, they would move up. You know, to go like, up to, right, which sounds kind of less bluesy. But John plays the E flat 9 and uses his pinky on the 8th fret of the 2nd and 3rd string to to get that sound. And just with with a Lennon cocky strum. Bridge, they play a regular B flat 7. He continues it. To the F. I love that. Chains. Baby's got me locked up in chains. And the anger. So fun. And the other oddity I think is on the fade out. They're just playing basically, they stay first form. Chains, chains of love. When they go E flat, chains of love. They make it an E flat minor. Somebody's in a high note. Love, love. Probably Paul. Which is pretty unusual for the fade out of a blues song. So there you have it. Especially on the 9th chord, man, rock that thing. Just so very cool. The next song that has some noteworthy chord uncommonness is "Ask Me Why." It's the first time we hear the Beatles play an augmented chord. An E augmented actually, and there's some cool ways the way they move around, the normal part of the song, with chords following the melody. It's E to F sharp minor to G sharp minor, and they play. And it's just basically an E chord to a F sharp minor to a G sharp minor, but just playing the inside third, what would it be, fourth, third, and second strings, really. Lovely, right? An odd G sharp. Minor again. That E augmented. Now, if you don't know, an augmented chord just means you take the root, the third, and the fifth of an E chord, which is B, and you augment it a half step up, make it a C. The way the notes, the configuration of the notes go, you can also think of that actually as a C augmented, because you'd have C, E, and G for a C chord, and if you raised to a G sharp, it would be a C augmented. But since Paul stays on an E, we'll call it an E augmented. I can't be and I love the way they play this chord. Almost sounds like 2 chords, but it's just basically an E on that E chord. Just play strum to the 3rd string and then play open E, open B. Misery, right? And the other odd thing is the way the song ends. And right? They end on a G sharp minor 7th. And pick up the pinky and play I want to take a couple of moments and talk about the actual song, Please, Please Me. It was the Beatles' first #1 hit in the UK, put them on the map there, and their first official single in the United States, actually, also. But it doesn't really have any uncommon chords, but it has some uncommon musicality that's noteworthy here. Well, first it starts on beat 4, 1, 2, 3, with that harmonica thing. But what's really cool is that the Beatles are singing a minor second. It goes. So it's a E, 2 E's, and then an E flat and an E. Some have suggested that they kind of lifted that from the Everly Brothers song "Kathy's Clown," which is in G, but they sing a major second. C, C, B, G. What would it be? So that's like even though it's in the key of G, it's 2 E's to start. It's not as dissonant, it's like an E7 sound, but. Beatles are singing a minor second, which is just radical. So I think that's very noteworthy. And what's cool is the way George does the chords in the "Come On, Come On." It's the first time you can actually tell that he's playing for his A chord, he's playing C sharp or A over C sharp, as he goes. And then that C sharp for the F sharp minor, and C sharp for the C sharp minor, and then you can tell he plays a full A. So that's first, And George did that a lot, making the third of the chord as the bass note, but it's really quite evident there. So that's great, Use that third. So if you're playing an E chord, you can play it with the third and the bass. That came later. And what else? Oh yeah, and in the ending, kind of, different chords. Please, 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 oh yeah, like I please, oh yeah. Love it. Right? Very cool. Just E, G, C, B, and an E. Those are some cool things about the actual song, Please, Please Me. I'd like to take a moment to talk about P.S. I Love You, which was the B-side of their Love Me Do single. And there's not any really uncommon voicings, but there's pretty cool uncommon, substitutions, we should say. Like the C sharp at the beginning, Looking for chords sometimes, because that's been misconstrued as a G sharp diminish, But the melody gives away that it's a C sharp. Besides, Paul playing a C sharp on the bass, but the melody. There's a C sharp. So. Half-step chromatic from C sharp to D thing. The other noteworthy thing is they don't use the typical Beatle banjo chord, with the F sharp in the bass. You can hear just the regular first position D. And the way they get to the B flat is so cool, just first position chords until they move to bar. I'll just play it. C. This C. It's not. It's. So it's very intelligent usage of very simple chords. Keeping it very gentle because the lyrics are gentle and the melody is gentle. I really liked it. I think that's just perfectly tasteful. The next song with some uncommon chords and chord usage is George's Do You Want to Know a Secret? It's in E minor, basic chords that George plays at the beginning. E minor, A minor, G, F, B7. The Beatles B7, that lovely jangly B7 that comes around so much. But what's really interesting is John's doing this little trill thing underneath that. He plays his E minor like this, to an A minor, back to a E minor, and a G, to an F, to a B. But he's doing a little trill thing, he's going like. You can hear it's John because he makes that B chord into a sixth, right? And then, normal chords, E, G sharp, minor, G minor, F sharp minor. Jangly B. There it is. It's an A minor over C. So an A minor with a C bass. Right, back to E. Let me whisper. Should be noted too that this is one of the most out of tune songs of the Beatles. If you're listening closely, the guitars are, they just either been playing for a while or, even my favorite guitarist, Wes Montgomery, has said about guitars, this model in particular. He said that the guitars are never in tune, and he was talking about his own. He said you can tune it up perfectly, and then a half hour later, something else is happening. It's so true. You have to learn to temper your guitars. But nevertheless, if you listen close, between George is a little sounding a bit out of tune too, and some of the chords sound out of tune. But still fabulous though, because it's the Beatles. So what else? Yeah, so there's that chord, and then it's kind of odd the way the chords are in. That B minor, right? A, F sharp minor, C sharp minor, B minor. And then the second time. And then they don't do a jangly B, they play a regular B. So it's kind of odd the way that B minor comes in. So that's a cool thing, with whatever chords you're playing, just try to put, a different, like the third or something in the bass, at the bottom of your chord, and get a whole new sound. There you go. The last song I want to talk about off of Please Please Me is A Taste of Honey. Has some cool chords and some interesting interplay, uncommon, between John and George. The song was originally written by, I think it's Bobby Scott, around 1960 for a Broadway play that was taken from a British play, I believe. And it had a typical jazz move, the D minor to D minor major 7th, D minor 7th, G7, right? The Beatles do it in a different key. So when they move down, they go from F sharp minor to F augmented to A to B. I want to talk about those augmenteds again a little bit. I talked about it a lot in my previous lesson about with the Beatles. And an augmented chord is just you take the fifth of the chord and you raise it up a half step. So if you have F, you make the C a C sharp. But when you move it up like 5 frets, it's the same chord. So this could be called F augmented, A augmented, or C sharp augmented. It's all the same notes, I should say. Or it could also be D minor major 7th, because if you have a D minor, put the minor third on the D string and move the tonic down a half step to C sharp, which would be the major 7th. Now you have a D minor major. It's really a D minor with a major 7th, but in jazz talk you call it a minor major. So anyhow, sorry if that was too cerebral. The chords are F sharp minor to F augmented to A to B. Now George goes just on arpeggiating it, and John plays on the third beat. He plays single notes. It's 1, 2, 3. And together, it would sound like right? That's what they make, and it's just so beautiful, for a song in waltz time. They're making a very cool thing. And the other cool thing is much. On the F sharp minor, they go to F sharp minor to B minor. Right? And another unusual thing is they kind of swing it on I will return. So John plays normal chords. I will return. And George is playing more up here. Kind of arpeggiating, and then when he plays his F sharp minor, it's this voicing. So I will be F sharp with George going. I'll come back to the and what a great ending. On F sharp major. So nice, so simple, but uncommon for the day, and really cool interplay between John and George. So there you have it. Those are the uncommon chords and cool parts of the Beatles album, Please Please Me. Hey, if you'd like to drop me a note, do so at MikePachelli.com. Always cool to hear from you, and I answer every email. Please, if you would, subscribe to this channel, and at MikePachelli.com there's charts and tabs of every lesson that I do. For these, it's just chord blocks because it's uncommon chords, and that's what the lesson's about. So anyhow, thanks for hanging out with me. I'm Mike Pachelli. Until next time, take care.